welcome to the Consultations on Justice Curriculum Project. I'm Troy Wolf, and I'm with the United Nations Association of the United States of America. Here today with me is...
I'm Terry Giles. I am the designer and master trainer for the Curriculum Project.
Terry's also a member of the UNA USA Queens chapter. And we have...
I'm Mandeep Singh. I work at Queens Collegiate. We'll be piloting one of the classes for this program, and one of our classes will be taking place in a school in India.
Excellent. Terry?
So we are very excited to start this pilot. We want to first give you a little overview of how this initiative came about. I will start with Troy and tell you a little bit about the UNA USA's involvement and the work they've already done with these consultations.
Thank you, Terry. So the United Nations Association was started more than 70 years ago by Eleanor Roosevelt when she set out to go across the country and engage young people in calls for advocacy. That mission continues in our work, and we have a network of more than 22,000 members, 220 chapters of UN advocates across the United States of America. We are an intergenerational group, which means we have members as young as 12 to possibly as old as 96. We have chapters on college campuses, and we're here now on the lovely grounds of St. John's University, where Terry is embarking on her dissertation. Congratulations, Terry.
Thank you.
We have a chapter here, and we have many chapters on college campuses across the U.S., and we also have community chapters. And what brings them all together is a framework known as the Sustainable Development Goals. And as many of you know, the United Nations ushered in a group of ambitious goals ago with a mandate to achieve them by the year of 2030. If you think about a social ill, it falls within one of the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. And so our membership base, it's all volunteers. They advocate for a better world. They advocate for climate change. They advocate for gender equality. Again, you think about a social ill, and our members do it. The Southern New York State Division of UNA USA, which is made up of Queens, Brooklyn, the Bronx, Manhattan, and Westchester, and Northern New Jersey, the Southern New York State Division has hosted for the past 5 years something called Consultations on Justice. Consultations on Justice are convenings where a variety of stakeholders come together. You have people formerly incarcerated, people from the church, people from the academic community, people who are employed, people who are unemployed, just a variety of stakeholders who come together and discuss an issue around race. The Southern New York State Division then takes this information, they collate it, they submit it to the United Nations through a mechanism called the CERD, the Committee to Eliminate Racial Discrimination. And so in submitting these ideas and concepts to the UN itself, they become resolutions. And if the UN accepts them, the UN then publishes them, and they share these resolutions as recommendations for 193 member states to follow. So thinking along those lines, and all my work that I've done over the years with Queens Collegiate with these two fine people here, we embarked on a conversation about a year ago and asked the question, what would it take to bring an activity like this to middle and high school students? What would it take for us to create a curriculum where they could really focus on what does it mean, what does social justice mean, and what agency do they have over creating the world that they want, which led us to the design of the Consultations on Justice curriculum project. So Terry, I hope that kind of answered the question.
Yes, it did. And so now I'm going to tell you a little bit about the creation of the actual curriculum and a lot of the material that is going to be used through it. So in line with the SDGs as well as the UN Declaration for Human Rights, most of the activities have been compiled to address these issues, or some of the points that are listed as goals for us to achieve as human beings in order to create a sustainable planet. Mandeep and I have been educators for over a decade, and we have been very dedicated to a lot of the missions and the vision of the United Nations and the United Nations Association. So combining the two was a natural thing for me as an educator, and bringing that into an education platform using lesson plan structures in order to deliver this information and engage your youth in these conversations, in these consultations, so that we can begin to activate and motivate and create the sustainable planet that we desire. Mandeep has also worked within the science field. He's also working with the school in India that his grandfather and father have created around curriculum-based activities that deal with social justice, that work along the lines of
share a little bit too about why this project appealed to you? Kind of
Yeah.
what would you hope to get out of it?
Okay. So back in the 1970s, my grandfather actually studied a school. He was a teacher. He studied a school for students who couldn't afford to go to even public school. In India, the public school you actually have to pay a fee, and even a minimum fee, let's say $1 a month, is pretty high. Was pretty high at that time. So my grandfather actually created a school for kids who couldn't go and asked them to just come in for free. Um, Transportation was provided. Buses came and picked them up, and that started a whole new trend for that neighborhood. The neighborhood encompasses about 20, 25 different villages, all farmers. The mode of transportation was walking, or maybe if they could afford a bicycle. So from there, now fast forward 3 generations. My father was a teacher. I am a teacher. Um, some of these students that my grandfather taught, their kids were taught by my father, and now I'm working at Queens Collegiate, Jamaica High School. I am teaching some of the grandchildren for the earlier generation that were taught by my grandfather. So there's a continuity of 3 generations trying to help a lot of these folks who literally didn't have anything to rely upon, and now even in America, we're trying to continue that goal. Um, so I really wanted to work with Tari on this project because it appealed on so many levels to us. The school is still there. It's funded through donations by the community members in India, and we wanted to show them that there are people here who see these issues and are willing to help. So we wanted to do the pilot because we wanted to show the students that hey, even though you are in rural India and you may not have access to a lot of these resources, but we do have people here who will listen to you and who will try to make this world a better place down the road.
So we certainly wanted to thank Mandeep for really stepping up. You're representing two demographics that we would not have access to had you not been part of this project. As Terry and Mandeep mentioned, this is a pilot, and it is a pilot because we kind of wanted to see where the best audience is for this community. Is it a middle school group, a high school group, a college group, or an international school? Or is it all four of those? And so, we really thank you for your initiative with reaching out back to our colleagues in India. That's going to be fantastic. Thank you for your involvement with the students at Queens. That's going to be awesome as well. And we just look forward to hearing different stories about how this curriculum is experienced on those audiences as we pilot this for this year.